women need to have the same opportunities to shape digital technologies.
I am turning to all women active and interested in digitalization.
And position young women and girls as not only consumers but also producers within the digital sector.
The industry is ready to embrace us all, and when we get into the industry, we will shape our own future.
Hello and welcome to Women Leading Digital, a podcast by GIZ where we discuss digital transformation and technology with leading voices from around the world. I'm Pooja Gyanchandani from GIZ. I lead capacity measures that empower gig workers on their rights and in-demand skills. In this episode, we will unpack the question, how best could workers leverage their skills as a currency on platforms?
So they're like self-care but also entrepreneurial skills, especially in developing economies.
It takes initiative. A lot of this work is initiative. Be self-driven, know what you want, understand what reports are coming out, what are the in-demand skills.
I'd like to welcome my guest for today's conversation. Monica Ramos, who joins us from Peru, is the co-founder of Musa. Musa is a microlearning solution allowing workers to upskill and reskill regardless of their years of formal education using just a smartphone. Hello, Monica, and welcome.
Hi, Anthony, Pooja. I'm really happy to be here.
And moving on from Peru to Kenya, I'm joined by Anthony Karanja Kabiru. Anthony is a partner at MasterCard Foundation. His work focuses on improving and enabling access to education and skilling to empower young people and bolster their pathways to better work opportunities. Hello, Anthony, and welcome.
Hello, Pooja. It's a pleasure to connect with you today.
Anthony and Monica, to kick things off, could you share insights into the motivations driving gig workers to enroll in upskilling programs and what sparks their interest in continuous learning?
In my experience, what I've seen is that employability is the main motivation to undertake any study either in a platform or in an offline setting. And some of the barriers that I've seen in Latin America basically is access to internet, to devices, and also is the years of education. Because a lot of these digital platforms require that the students have already some kind of learning readiness, to have the discipline to study themselves. So I think that can be also a barrier.
I think I resonate with a lot of what Monica has said. And from my insights in Kenya particularly, a lot of the motivation to be, first of all, to be in the platform economy is because of the unemployment rates we are continuing to see being on the rise. So they dropped out of school for one reason or another, or they finished school but haven't been able to get access to employment opportunities. But then, as you ask, Pooja, what then we're seeing is a lot of the young people, if I want to scale up and earn more, I need to reskill. But then there is a mismatch because there are no enough reskilling opportunities that are market driven that you can be able to do so. The barrier is even higher, particularly to young women, because they may not have the right devices and right access to internet, right access to support.
That's a valid observation, Anthony. Studies have indicated that women constitute about half the gig workforce, yet they face several biases inherited from the informal sectors. Knowing this, have you come across any upskilling solutions designed to empower and support gig workers that address the unique challenges that they encounter?
So from my insights and experience, there are not so many, if there are. So many young people are resorting to Google to see what pathways are there they could skill. The free courses, maybe for example from Coursera, Udemy, that they can upskill. And a lot of them might not be market driven or updated for what is currently required by market. A lot of these courses are very, very expensive and out of reach for very many young people. Right, so there's a catch here. So if they're there, they're expensive. If not, and they're freely available, they're not market relevant. So begs the dilemma and the quagmire for very many people who want to participate in the gig economy.
So what I'm hearing you say, Anthony, is that workers need a simple, affordable path to skill acquisition. For online freelancers and location-based gig workers, for example, microlearning has been a game changer. And it could be as simple as a rider trying to learn how to read Google Maps or a freelancer trying to use digital wallet or generating invoices. Monica, Tell me more about how you are using microlearning at Musa and what was your motivation behind launching this concept as such.
So we mainly deliver our content on WhatsApp because 81% of the population in Latin America has access to it on a daily basis. So the concept behind was, okay, let's reach people where they are right now. And they are right now just using these low-tech apps with a basic mobile phone. That's the barrier we try to overcome first. And then the other thing that we focus on was on developing a methodology that also meet them where they are. A lot of our beneficiaries haven't finished high school. So they don't have that discipline to overcome, a 6-month course. We need to go really like bite sides in a really guided experience. So we have developed our training in a way that is a conversation. So it's the chatbot guiding the student through the learning to reach those small tasks that will allow them to get a better employment or is certified.
So this sounds particularly significant for location-based workers with varying literacy levels. But what about the recognition of learning and credentials? How does this work in Kenyan context, Anthony?
What we are seeing from a Kenyan context specifically is, and it's not specifically to platform workers, right? But it's for more of the vocational skills, if I may say. So, for example, I'm a plumber. I've been working. I never went to school. I've been working for long. But then I want to be able to get a better job, have collateral to get access to financing. I will go and get my skill recognized, earn a certificate so that I can be able to upskill. So it's not specifically into the platform based, but then over time it affects because some of this will use the platform to be able to access customers. So for them, it's an opportunity to have the recognition of their skill because we're in a community that if you do not have the papers, sadly, we do not appreciate you having the skill.
From your experience with Musa, Monica, how can gig workers get their skills recognized? I know you work a lot with workers who are microtasking or taking up low-skill jobs. Do they find better work opportunities once upskilled?
So as I mentioned before, most of our students within Musa are low skill and medium skill task workers. So that means that the way they get their jobs opportunities are in traditional platforms more than perhaps riders, taxi drivers, and this kind of employment. And they basically rely on customer feedback more than the recognition of any skill. So going back to your question, it's hard for these platforms now to gather these credentials that a worker may have. So there is, I think, still a gap there and an opportunity in these platforms to recognize those.
Monica, you may be pointing to a big gap in the market. As workers increasingly seek opportunities via platforms, there is a growing need for cultivating transversal skills. Anthony, are there any noteworthy initiatives that support women in overcoming these skills gaps?
Particularly young people in the platform economy from the global south, so this Kenya and Africa at large, are having difficulties accessing work opportunities from international platforms. A lot of them have stereotyped and said that they're not competent enough or not able to do. And if they are able to access opportunities, they will be the low-paying workers you have mentioned. So we're seeing young people having to do a lot to be able to prove themselves. And so one of the key things that we've in our work, we're encouraging a lot of these young people to do is what we call an agency model. So the ones who've been older enough and are getting a lot of these gigs can be able to attract a lot of the work, but then disseminate to the young people who are coming through. So they become a super employer, so an entrepreneur. So I get all this work and then I distribute it. I quality check it before I submit it back to the clients. What that does, it helps the newer ones, and particularly the women, to be able to grow and understand the different dynamics of this platform before they can be able to graduate and be able to attract a lot of this work.
This aligns quite well with the discussions of episode 1, where we explored aspects of mutual learning within gig communities. Just as you say, workers are acquiring experience and skills every time they complete a task successfully. And this preempts the question, how can women workers showcase their learning on a platform? What kind of tools and solutions are they using?
So from my experience and insights from Kenya and the global South and Africa in general, they're not specific tools that have been designed to help women, but platforms that have been created that enable women to showcase. So there are mentorship platforms that enable women to come together and showcase their skills. There are networking scenarios. There are specific young women training, because as you said, yes, there's a bias. Many young women communities believe that they shouldn't be, being in tech, for example. Okay. And this has been passed down to them. So they shun this kind of courses because there are gatekeepers in the communities who believe they can't do this. When they're coming in, we're seeing very many women upskilling or finding opportunities to grow in the gig economy.
The landscape is quite similar as what Anthony mentioned. There are not like specific platforms that are built to showcase their work. It's the same networks, mentoring programs, but also something that has been growing in the region is these index metrics of companies to employ women. So now we have rankings in the region of having this gender parity, not only in the whole company, but also by area in the company. So this gender index have also created more demand for women in STEM. So that has pushed companies and organizations to start looking into working with more women with digital jobs and not traditional women jobs.
In Kenya, we've piloted a mentorship and peer learning program for women workers. The feedback from the 150 women echoes the sentiments you both are sharing. They talked about discovering their identity, realizing marketable skills, and building their knowledge on essential financial, digital, and soft skills. We have launched a comprehensive package based on this feedback called the Skills Trio, which will offer the most essential know-how on the 3 skills areas and competencies. Monica, I noticed you smiling at this.
Yes.
Tell us more about what you think the workers could do better in terms of marketing themselves.
Yes, I just want to build on what you both have said. And I think besides soft skill, what I will add, especially for gig workers, are entrepreneurial skills. Just because they themselves are a business. They need to market themselves. They need to see how pricing of their person hour needs to be, how to be more efficient in terms knowing their own capacity, not to undertake, 40 projects at the same time and then burn out. So they're like self-care, but also entrepreneurial skills, especially in developing economies.
This is it. One of the key purposes of this podcast series and the episode on gig economy is to turn our attention to solutions and offer insights to workers, their representatives, and other stakeholders. Monica and Anthony, your insights are invaluable. So, as we start to conclude this conversation, I want to ask you, what are your top tips? First, for the workers.
There are nowadays many reports that are being issued every year by recognized organizations of the skills that are going to be needed in the next 5 years or 10 years. So especially for the high skill gig workers, I would suggest to review those reports. And for low and medium skill task workers, I would suggest is have a sense on the market and read the news. I think that's just being on top or trying to get informed of the context and where the context is going will give them the clues to see like where they can move.
My top tips for the gig workers, for them to be able to succeed in the gig economy, would be understand the sector. Once you understand the sector, the changes, the shifts it's happening, you'll be able to pivot and to be able to grow and upskill. Number 2, I think, and I cannot reiterate this fact, it's important for the young people to start being in communities, and communities, what we call communities of practice. This helps them understand what shifts are happening, helps them understand what opportunities exist, but also helps them understand what skills would be required to take advantage of those opportunities that are coming. It's important. So as a young person in gig working space, please get into a community of practice. But also it takes initiative. A lot of this work is initiative, right? Be self-driven, know what you want. Your initiative will enable you to be able to grow in the space in and out of the gig economy, but also you'll make the most of the gig economy.
Fantastic. So what is your top tip now for the platforms? How can platforms support gig workers to make the most of the skills they have?
I think for the platform, and I will take this from something that Anthony mentioned before, is like share information. So enable the gig workers to be able to share the data, their feedback that is in one platform to another, so they could have all this information to support them when they are applying for a new job.
I think there's an opportunity, right, for them as they're advocating for their rights, understanding what else is required by market and enabling young people to be able to take those pathways and to be able to, for them to grow in those pathways.
And finally, what recommendations do you have for governments to support the workers better?
Let's find a way, in this journey of lifelong learning, how these building blocks of skills that are being developed can also be transferable to traditional degrees. So they built a path for gig workers to access this more traditional learning that are recognized by the government, because now their skills are recognized either in the market or by an independent institution, but not specifically by the government or regulators.
There's an opportunity right here for governments across the world to change how we do our education system. A lot of the times our education system are more reactive to the market rather than being at the driving seat. There's an opportunity for that to shift that and ensure that we are changing our curriculums and ensuring that we are inculcating to our young people more market-driven skills, number one. But then number two, we also need to pivot a little bit. And I say this with all humility. A lot of the young people will drop out of school for one reason or another, for no reason of their doing, right? Are we able to offer them bite-sized learning away from the traditional way of learning that can also enable them to be able to take advantage of the gig economy, for example, and to be able to grow?
They say, where there is a will, there is a way. And I'd say to that, where there is a skill, there is a way. Thank you, Monica and Anthony, for this engaging conversation. It is encouraging to hear that there are several solutions like microlearning, recognition of prior learning, micro-credentials, career guidance, and peer learning that help recognize and motivate workers to pave their path within and outside the gig economy.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Women Leading Digital is brought to you by GIZ, the Deutsche Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit, and is produced by Beer Radio. I'm Pooja Gyanchandani. Follow GIZ for more information, news and stories on digital transformation and gender at www.bmz-digital.global, and make sure to listen to other episodes of the series.